Dear student, today I shall discuss about the carcinoma of the gallbladder. So, in the carcinoma, we shall discuss particularly in certain aspect, that is the etiopathogenesis, clinical features, and the spread and staging and investigations. So, out of this, the carcinoma gallbladder is one of the commonest carcinoma of the biliary tree. It is the fifth of all GI malignancy. This carcinoma is very rare in Western countries, particularly in UK, but it is the commonest carcinoma in India. And out of all carcinoma gallbladder, India is the highest number of occurrence, which is around 21.5%, followed by Chile, which is around 15.5%, followed by Pakistan, around 13.8%, 8 per lakh per year. So these are the incidents of carcinoma gallbladder in different parts. So it is one of the most dreaded diseases with a very dismal prognosis. That's why most of the surgeons usually will go for the definitive treatment, that is the definitive treatment is the surgical treatment. So usually the cause of that is the etiology of this carcinoma is not known, but many associations are there which may lead to this development of carcinoma gallbladder. Out of that is the gallstone. Approximately 90% of the carcinoma gallbladder is associated with the gallbladder carcinoma. But usually, if the stones are more than 5 cm in size, the chances of malignancy is higher. Because of suppose this is the gallbladder, if the stone is there, that will irritate the mucosa of the gallbladder, and that leads to the dysplasia of the mucosa and metaplasia, leading to anaplasia, and ultimately may develop the carcinoma of the gallbladder. So these stones, any sort of stones may usually lead to the polycystitis, inflammations of the mucosa, and which may lead to the contraction of the gallbladder, contraction, that is a scarred gallbladder, and ultimately that may lead to the fibrosis of the gallbladder, that is the calcification of the gallbladder, which is also known as the porcelain gallbladder. So another cause may be the porcelain gallbladder. Porcelain gallbladder. And another cause, it may associated with the gallbladder polyp. This is a polyp of the gallbladder. Suppose if the gallbladder polyp is more than 1 cm, then it is very much prone to develop carcinoma of the gallbladder. And other cause is the developmental causes, like suppose this is the CBD, and this is the gallbladder, and this is the pancreatic duct, and this is the duodenum. So sometimes by development there may have developed some polylocal cyst. That polylocal cyst is also associated with some sort of malignancy, the polylocal cyst. Association with the carcinoma of the gallbladder. And sometimes there is this common channel, which is the bile duct and the pancreatic duct and the bile duct, is very long common channel. Then, due to the sphincter, presence of a sphincter already, this pancreatic duct may reflect back to the gallbladder and may irritate the mucosa and may lead to the development of carcinoma of the gallbladder. So these are the usual causes it is presumed to be developed for carcinoma of the gallbladder, but exact pathology is not known. So they are pathologically, from the side, if you see, suppose this is the gallbladder, The most common site of affection is around 60% in the fundus and 30% in the body and 10% in the neck of the gallbladder. So these are the site of occurrence of the carcinoma of the gallbladder. Histologically, it is usually adenocarcinoma, or it may be squamous carcinoma very rarely, and there may be some undifferentiated carcinoma. Pathological, morphological type of the carcinoma gallbladder may be infiltrating morphologically, infiltrating carcinoma, it may be nodular, it may be polypoidal or polyflower, or it may be mixed. So this infiltrating carcinoma has a very ill-defined margin which has very poor prognosis, and this nodular is also affect spread early, but that can be easily managed surgically. This polypoidal carcinoma or polypoidal carcinoma is usually protruded into the lumen of the gallbladder and which has better prognosis in this type, and sometimes it may be mixed with all these varieties. So these are the morphological types of the carcinoma of the gallbladder. Now comes to the clinical presentation. See, this has very vague symptoms. That's why most of the carcinoma gallbladder are usually present late. So it usually occurs in elderly patients, more than 60 years usually, but may occur from 30 to 90 years. And usually female patients are more common to develop. Pain is the most common symptoms. Approximately 90% of the patients usually presented with pain. This pain may be just like a gallbladder pain, like colicky pain, or it may be diffuse dull upper abdominal pain. If an elderly patient presented with continuous diffuse upper abdominal pain, we should always suspect malignancy of the gallbladder. And sometimes the patient may presented with lump in the right upper quadrant, usually the gallbladder lump. So this gallbladder lump, if it presents, suppose this is the abdomen, so this gallbladder lump may present. If it occurs in the fundus, that patient you will get a hard lump with irregular surface. But if it affects the neck of the gallbladder, this lump will be cystic because of the development of mucosis. That is clinically very difficult to differentiate from the carcinoma of the head of the pancreas. So anyway, the patient may presented with lump which is hard in consistency and with irregular surface, and you should think about it may be carcinoma gallbladder. So other symptoms may be the jaundice. See, jaundice, if it occurs in the fundus, usually not a usual presentation of the carcinoma gallbladder because it is away from the CBD. But in advanced cases, due to the lymph node metastasis, which may compress the CBD, may develop jaundice. But in case of carcinoma occurring in the neck of the gallbladder, that may infiltrate the CBD or the CHD and causing the jaundice. So in this case, the patient may be presented with the early symptoms of jaundice, then the lump or the pain. And some patients may be presented with anorexia, nausea, vomiting, and the weight loss, or may be presented with ascites. So these are usually the late signs of carcinoma of the gallbladder. So now we'll go for the how it spread. So see, suppose this is the gallbladder. So you know there is some atypical nature of the gallbladder. So it has a mucous membrane and thin lamina propria, but no muscularis mucosa and no submucosa, but with a small single layered muscle layer, and with serosa on outer surface, and suppose this is the liver and this part is layered of serosa. So this carcinoma is spread by all the four routes. That is, it may spread locally, it may spread by the lymphatics or by hematogenous or by the transynomic spread. So this carcinoma, suppose this is we want to discuss about the local spread. So if suppose this is the carcinoma occurs in the mucosa, so if it remains, so it may spread directly, that is the direct spread. One is the direct spread into all the wall of the gallbladder and may involve the surrounding structure. Suppose this is the duodenum or the colon, or it may spread directly into the liver, direct spread, or it may spread into the lymphatic system. Most common lymphatic involvement, early lymphatic, is the celiac, that is the cystic gland and the periportal glands. So this gland is the first to affect, which is known as the M1. Then from this gallbladder it may spread to the, suppose this is the pancreas and this is the duodenum. It may spread to the celiac group of lymph nodes. From here, it may spread directly to the celiac group of lymph nodes, or it may spread the superior pancreatico-duodenal group of lymph nodes, or it may go into the mesenteric group of lymph nodes. So these are the usual. So this group of lymph nodes are known as the M2. That is celiac, superior pancreatico-duodenal, or the mesenteric group of lymph nodes, superior mesenteric group of lymph nodes. Then it may involve the aortocaval lymph nodes, which is usually not termed as a metastasis. Then it may spread through the hematogenous route also, but that is rare. Usually 10% of the cases may spread into the hematogenous route, or it may spread through the transynomic route, leading to the carcinomatous peritonium. See, we shall now discuss about the staging, the spread and staging. Suppose this is the carcinoma growth in the mucosa. If it remains within the mucosa or involves the lamina propria, then it will be termed as a T1A. And if it involves the muscle layer also, then it will be termed as a T1B. Then if it crosses the muscle and involves the perimuscular tissue, this is the perimuscular tissue, then it will be T2. And if it infiltrates the serosa, then it will be T3. So T3 is usually penetrates the serosa and usually involves the surrounding structures, maybe the duodenum, maybe the colon, or maybe the liver, which is usually the segment 4B or the segment 5. So these segments are usually involved by the carcinoma of the gallbladder. This is the bed of the gallbladder. So if this tumor crosses, that is the T1B, that is if it crosses the muscle layer, that is the T2, then it will spread directly from the lymph, that is the subserosal lymphatics to the first into the M1 region, may goes into the M2 regions or into the aortocaval lymph nodes. So these are the wave spread, how it spreads. So from this T and M metastasis, presence of metastasis there or not, we will stage the carcinoma of the gallbladder. This is staging. See if T1, whether A or B, to T2 with N0 is termed as stage 1. See T1A termed as a very early carcinoma and treatment will be different, and in case of T1 to T3 with or without lymph node involvement. If the tumor is T3 without lymph node involvement, or if the patient is having T1 with lymph node involvement, then it will be stage 2. Then stage 3, if patient is having T4 diseases, then or if the patient is having N2 but N0, then it will be stage 3. And if patient is having, that is T4 means crossing the serosa with involvement of more than one non-hepatic involvement. That is, it may involve the stomach, it may involve the colon, it may involve the duodenum, or it may involve the major blood vessels like the portal veins or the celiac artery or the hepatic artery. So if that part is involved, then it will be termed as a T4. Then N2 I have already discussed. So in stage 4, if there is any metastasis, that may be any T, any N, but if the metastasis is there, then it will be termed as a stage 4. Now we shall discuss about how is the investigator, and now we shall discuss about how you confirm the diseases, that is investigations. So first line of investigation for confirmation of the disease is the USG, ultrasonography of the abdomen. So if you do an ultrasound of the abdomen, you may be able to see in the gallbladder, you may be able to see some irregularity of the gallbladder. Some patient may present it with a irregularity of the gallbladder, and some patient may present it with a polypoidal mass in the gallbladder occupying the lumen of the gallbladder, and some patient may present it with an infiltrating mass into the liver bed which replace the gallbladder. Or some patient may even showing, this ultrasound may even showing the presence or absence of the lymph node. So these are the usual ultrasonographic findings. So any swelling with a focal swelling of the gallbladder is usually suspicious for the carcinoma of the gallbladder. Sometimes in case of acute cholecystitis also, there may be wall thickening all throughout. It's very difficult to differentiate from the carcinoma of the gallbladder, but you have to see whether it is a localized swelling. If it is a part of the gallbladder is involved, it is localized, that is focal swelling of the gallbladder, then you should suspect the carcinoma of the gallbladder. So for confirmation, this is you will get a clue whether this patient is having carcinoma of the gallbladder or not. Then you have to go for other investigation, that is CECT abdomen. So this CECT abdomen can not only diagnose the disease, it can also give you some clue about the stage of the disease. That means it can detect the lymph nodes. If the lymph node is more than 1 centimeter, the accuracy of the CT scan is around 90%. The next investigation is the MRCP. So MRCP is particularly helpful whenever the patient is having jaundice. So that means the jaundice means it will involve the CVD. by either by the compression by the lymph nodes, or it may invade directly into the CBD or the CHD. So the CBD and the CHD is very nearby the vascular structure. So that to detect that part, this MRCP and CT scans are very important. So apart from this CACT, this MRCP will be helpful to detect any small lesions, secondaries in the liver. But these are not sensitive to detect the micrometastasis, that is the carcinomatous peritoneum. This peritoneal deposits are unable to detect by this investigation. The next we can go for the FNAC. See, for operable cases, if you think from this investigation that the patient is operable, then you should not advise for the FNAC of the gallbladder. That may lead to the needle tract invasion, needle tract involvement of the carcinoma of the gallbladder. That's why the FNAC is not advisable in a case of operable disease. So this can detect more accurately whether the patient is having carcinoma or not. Then you can go for other investigation like the PET scan of the body. This is usually done whenever the patient is having suspicious secondary metastasis in the body. Then you should go for PET scan. That will helpful to detect and also exclude some unnecessary exploratory laparotomy. Then you may go for the tumor marker. Tumor marker. So usually the 99.9 CA 99.9, and if it is more than 20, that is usually suggestive of, that will give some suggestion that the patient may suffer from that sort of disease, or the CEA, if it is more than 4. So these are tumor markers that is helpful to come to a conclusion that it may be patient may have so and also helpful for follow-up of the patient. Then you can go for endoscopic ultrasound. That will help to detect early cancer of the gallbladder and also the lymph node metastasis. The most important thing is the laparoscopy, diagnostic laparoscopy. So usually most of the centers nowadays, whenever they plan for the surgical resection of the gallbladder, they usually go for just before the operation, on the same sitting, they usually go for laparoscopy, diagnostic laparoscopy, whether the patient is having operable or not. See, many patients may have carcinomatous peritoneum, and if you open it, that is a big operation, the whole big incision. So that can be avoided by doing the diagnostic laparoscopy. Approximately 50% of the cases can be avoided for laparotomy if you go for diagnostic laparoscopy. That can detect you whether the patient is having carcinomatous peritoneum or not, whether the patient is locally advanced or not, or it is resectable or not. So these are the usual investigations for carcinoma of the gallbladder. Apart from this, we have to go for all other investigations which are necessary for management of the patient. That is whether routine investigation of the blood, urine, sugar, liver function test, thyroid function test, chest examination, cardiac condition, all investigations have to be done. Then comes the management part. The management depends upon whether the patient is presented with, whether you have diagnosed the disease. Before that, we should say this is a carcinoma, this is a adenocarcinoma, which is usually the use of this chemotherapy. Chemo is doubtful whether it is effective or not, and the radiotherapy also not effective because it is adenocarcinoma. So chemoradiation has very limited role for carcinoma management of carcinoma gallbladder. Only scope is the surgery. Surgical removal of the gallbladder and its parts, certain parts, that is particularly the lymphatic drainage, you have to remove completely. So this management depends upon whether you have diagnosed the disease as preoperatively, perioperatively, or you diagnose it after operation, that is post-operatively. So that depends upon, and whether you diagnose this disease or at the stage of the disease, in which stage the patient present. Usually in stage 1 the treatment pattern will be different. Stage 2 treatment will be usually curative treatment. In stage 3 you may go for some sort of palliative treatment, and particularly in stage 4 no surgical treatment is advisable. Then most important is the surgical expertise. Surgical expertise. So if a patient is explored for common that is polylithiasis, and you found that the patient is suffering from carcinoma gallbladder, and you perioperatively you found that the patient is having carcinoma gallbladder, then if you are not able to do this procedure, you have to close the abdomen and send it for the proper referral center. So that means that surgical expertise is very important. So surgical options. So what are the surgical options for carcinoma of the gallbladder? It depends upon the stage of the disease. Some may, that is the simple cholecystectomy. Simple cholecystectomy, if you get it in stage 1, particularly A, stage 1 that is T, stage 1 that is T1A and 0 and 0. In stage 1 that is T1A or carcinoma in situ, so simple cholecystectomy is enough. So that is usually a post-operative finding, that is histology. Sometimes some patients gallbladder operation we have done and send it for histology and found to be a case of carcinoma, and that if it comes out as a stage 1 and that is the T1A, then nothing has to be done. So if it comes out to be T1B, where lymph node involvement, chances of lymph node involvement is higher, that is around 15%. So here lymph node involvement is in T1A around 2.5% only. That's why you have to follow up the case. But if you get it in a T1B, that is the involvement of the muscles of the gallbladder, then where the chances of lymph node involvement is there around 15%. So many surgeons usually advise for the revision surgery. So these are usually findings post-operative findings. So if you diagnose it preoperatively, you should in a T1B or T1A, your treatment will be a radical cholecystectomy. So in T1B or preoperatively diagnosed, your treatment will be, if you diagnose postoperatively, it will be a go for a revision radical cholecystectomy. If you diagnose preoperatively, you straightforward go for the radical cholecystectomy. In T2, similarly in case of T2 diseases where the perimuscular tissues are also involved, then you go for the radical cholecystectomy. In case of T3, where there may be involvement of the liver, part of the segment 4, B or the 5, or it may involve a single extra hepatic involvement like CBD, like the duodenum or the colon, then you can go resect that part and do the radical cholecystectomy. Then in case of T4, where multi-organ involvement is there, or their major blood vessels are also involved, then there is usually no question for radical, this sort of radical surgery, where morbidity and mortality is very high. But nowadays, in many centers, particularly the Japanese people, usually they may go for even resection of the portal vein and hepatic artery and reconstructed it by doing some sort of synthetic graft. And they said that even then the survival, they get some survival benefits, but the morbidity and mortality is very high in case of T4. But if the patient is having metastasis, that is stage 4, there is no hope for surgical curative treatment. You have to go for palliative treatment. So you can see that the patient is having different stages, but for early stage, that is stage 1 and stage 2, which are early, where the treatment of choice for stage 1 and 2. Stage 1 means the stage 1 T1B, and stage 2, 1 and 2, your treatment will be the radical cholecystectomy. For stage 3, you have to depend upon whether you will be able to go for some sort of curative treatment or not. If possible, then go for that means this stage 3 patient may be, this is the locally advanced disease, which are stage 3, which may be resectable or may be unresectable. So these unresectable cases, you have to go for palliative treatment. If it is resectable, you go for this radical cholecystectomy. Then, so what do we mean by radical cholecystectomy? So radical cholecystectomy is nothing but this. Suppose this is a pancreas. See, this radical cholecystectomy means you have to remove the gallbladder, you have to remove a part of the liver, around 2 to 5 centimeters of the liver, and remove all the possible lymphatics, including the behind the duodenum. So all lymph nodes, that is para, polylocal lymph nodes, cystic and polylocal lymph nodes, then the celiac lymph nodes, superior pancreaticoduodenal lymph nodes, and the retroduodenal lymph nodes. You have to, all lymph nodes have to be removed. So your line of dissection will be like this. Line of dissection should be like this. All lymph nodes have to be removed. So these are the parts you have to remove. For these lymph nodes, you remove all N1 and N2 group of lymph nodes. For liver resection, this liver resection may be around the 2 centimeters of the liver bed, or liver bed means from the palpable or the visible lymph nodes, liver involvement. So that can be done by the wedge resection. That is like this wedge resection. You make a wedge and remove the liver. That is the liver resection, wedge resection. Or you can remove this. Usually that carcinoma gallbladder involves the segment 4B and the segment 5. That segment 4B is just lateral to this is the ligamentum teres, falciform ligament. That part has to be, all segment has to be removed. It is segmental resection. Segment 4B and the segment 5. These are the segmental resection. Some surgeons usually go for, that is trisegmentectomy. That is the segment 4B, 5 and the 6. That is particularly those sensors which are which are particularly involved with the hepatobiliary systems, the hepatobiliary surgeons, they may even go for the right hepatectomy. This suppose there is some multiple lymph multiple secondary in the right lobe of the liver, then they may even go for the right hepatectomy. Or if the patient is having right hepatic artery is involved, or the right portal vein is also involved, then usually they go for the right hepatectomy. But for that part, usually the left lobe must be normal, and that's for that they may even go for the portal vein, right portal vein embolization. So that if the right portal vein is embolized preoperatively, then this part will be hypertrophied, and they go for the, if that part is hypertrophied, then they can go for the right hepatectomy. So these are the usual surgical procedures for curative intention. And some surgeons, even in particularly the Japanese surgeons, may, if the duodenum is involved extensively, where a local wedge resection is not possible, then they may go for even the Whipple's procedure also. This is pancreaticoduodenectomy in case of carcinoma gallbladder. Now we shall go for, these are the curative treatment. So most of the patients, around only you will get 10 to 20% of the carcinoma gallbladder in a curative stage. So most of the patients are usually presented late, and they are not surgically amenable for curative treatment. That in that case you have to go for palliative treatment. So palliative treatment usually in a form of chemo or chemoradiation, or even some surgical procedure. In a patient with metastasis, usually we go for chemotherapy or chemoradiation, particularly if the bone is also involved. In case you may go for chemoradiation. But if the patient is having some obstructive features like jaundice or duodenal involvement leading to gastric outlet obstruction, you have to go for some sort of surgical procedure. So this surgical procedure to relieve the symptoms or palliation like obstructive jaundice or the gastric outlet obstruction. So for obstructive jaundice, you can go for stenting. So stenting means, suppose this is the so this part is affected by infiltrating the mass. So the patient is having jaundice, so you introduce a stent like this and pass the obstruction, and the bile will be flowed. Or that is called endoscopic stenting. Or sometimes you may go for transhepatic, percutaneous transhepatic stenting. You insert under guidance, CT guidance, you insert a guide wire and go to the right or left hepatic duct and pass the stent from this way to this. So you place a stent here. It is transhepatic, percutaneous transhepatic stenting and endoscopic stenting. Sometimes this is stenting, sometimes you may have to go for the, if the patient is having jaundice, you are not able to do the stenting, or patient is very weak, then you can release it by draining it extract into the exterior by percutaneous transhepatic biliary drainage. You place a drain, insert a catheter, different types of catheter are there, into the dilated duct, and the bile will be drained externally, which is known as the PTBD. This is percutaneous transhepatic biliary drainage. Then you can go for surgical drainage. So surgical drainage means the patient is having growth in here, with involvement of certain structures nearby. So you will not be able to do that is hepaticojejunostomy. Hepaticojejunostomy is not feasible here or it is not recommended. That is hepaticojejunostomy means here you can anastomose with a jejunum here into the proximal bile duct. That is not possible here because of this growth, and it is not advisable also. So what you can do by surgical procedure, suppose this is the liver and this is the falciparum ligament, suppose. So you go just lateral to this falciparum ligament and you find out the segment 3 duct, bile duct, and do an anastomosis there. This is low NY, segment 3 anastomosis. This is low NY hepatico, enterohepatic anastomosis. So this is the segment 3 bypass. So these are usually the procedure for inoperable cases. That is a periodic procedure for carcinoma of the gallbladder. So from here you can see the different strategies of treatment of surgical treatment of carcinoma gallbladder. That means whether the patient is preoperatively or paraoperatively diagnosed. So if preoperatively diagnosed, if it is resectable, you go for the radical. Pre or paraoperatively diagnosed, if it is resectable, you go for the radical cholecystectomy. If it is not resectable, that is locally advanced, you go for palliative treatment. If patient is diagnosed postoperatively, if patient is having metastasis is present, then you will straight forward palliative treatment. Then if you get it in a T2 or T3 stage, postoperative diagnosis, by histological diagnosis, T2 or T3 stage, you go for re-exploration. Suppose you have done a cholecystectomy for CVD or gallbladder stone and the biopsy came out to be a carcinoma gallbladder which is in a T2 or T3 stage, then you re-explore the patient and do the final treatment. On re-exploration, if it is resectable, you go for radical cholecystectomy. If it is not resectable, then you go for the palliative treatment. Then, if postoperative histology came out to be a T1 stage, then if it is T1A, then no further treatment is required. And if it is T1B, you go for re-exploration, and accordingly, if it is resectable, go for the radical cholecystectomy. So these are the usual treatment algorithm. They are surgically available cases. This is the surgical treatment of carcinoma of the gallbladder. So if you treat it in early stage, nowadays the prognosis appears to be better, but most of the surgeons in the past, usually they are nihilistic and they don't go for surgical treatment. Nowadays, most of the surgeons usually if you go for extensive operations, you will get a better result. Okay, thank you.